welcome again. We're glad you're here, and tonight's gonna be a great night. I don't know what y'all need. What y'all doing up here? I'm just kidding. Come here. Hudson, get out of here. Go over there. We gotta do a proper introduction tonight, okay? All right, hey, listen. Sorry, I just turned around there, like standing there looking at me. I was like, what are y'all doing? Hey, if I haven't met you, my name is Seth. I'm on our student team here, and we're so glad that all of you are here. But again, if you're a guest, we're glad you're in the house tonight. I have my friend Andrew here tonight. Andrew, who just got back. Where you been, Andrew?
Home.
Before that,
Dorman.
Okay, so you're not going to share what I think you're going to share, are you?
Oh, I am.
Oh, you are? Can you share it now?
You ready?
Yeah. Wait, whoa. No, I'm saying, where have you been?
Where have I been?
Can you share where you've been?
My walk with Christ?
No, like recently, like today or yesterday. You're not going to share that, are you?
I was at Dorman.
Okay, I thought you were out of town. I thought you were out of town. Okay.
Oh, I wasn't out of town.
Where were you?
I was in Charleston.
Why were you in Charleston? Can you share?
Athletic visit.
For what?
Charleston Southern Athletic cross-country track team.
Come on. Are you going to run there?
I think that's the plan.
Come on. Y'all give it up for Andrew. Come on. I can't wait to watch what happens and watch you sign and watch all that. It's going to be great. So I had to give you a little shout out, buddy. I'm proud of you. All right, so Andrew's here tonight. He made it from Charleston. I didn't know he was going to show up. He was going to be communicating this tonight, and then he walks in, and we're like, oh, great, Andrew's here. So are you really ready for the moment? All right, go ahead. Take it away.
The real question is, are you ready for another Wednesday night Super Slam? Standing in the left corner, we have, standing at a staggering 5'8", 140 pounds, Hudson Jones.
Thank you.
Whack.
Thank you so much, Andrew. Seth kind of stole my fire right there. I was going to come up here and tell y'all about how Andrew just committed to Charleston Southern University for tracks. I mean, that's amazing. I could never. He beats me every time we race. That's amazing. Guys, I'm so happy to be here with y'all tonight. It's just amazing. Like, wow, it's really bright up here. There's so many greats have come before me, just like in this ministry. I'm happy to be making my own mark on this ministry. Hopefully, maybe the Hall of Fame, potentially. But I just want to start out tonight with talking about my relationship with my dad. Some of y'all know Tom Jones, sitting in the back there, the man himself, right? He's always been a great mentor to me. Growing up on a farm, always teaching me good lessons of hard work. Actions always have consequences. I mean, you learn that with cows. You make the wrong move, and it's going to be fun. And then that also godly wisdom. Dad's always really taught me that. So always consider that one of my greatest blessings, to have a really strong father figure. So like I said, we live on a farm. We live up in Cooley Springs. If y'all know where Strawberry Hill is, that's like the only landmarker we have. Other than that, middle of nowhere. So live on that farm, just always working. We're working with the cows, chickens. We got little birds. We got dogs. Like, always working. When we're not working, Dad and me, we love to kayak. We love to shoot. We love to do things outdoors. But when the sun goes down, it's hard to do things outdoors. One of the favorite things me and my dad love to do is watch movies. And let me tell you something about watching movies with Dad. It's not one of those things where it's like, oh, cool, action, explosion. No, like, Dad is critiquing the movie. He's like, okay, is the sound right here? Is the writing good? And through the years, watching these movies with him, I mean, that's really transgressed to me. So it's like, you got David and Colt who are here in the audience. I mean, they can tell you they can't watch a movie with me because I'm doing the same thing. They're like, why are you critiquing the movie? Just enjoy it. So a couple of weeks ago, we were sitting down for dinner, and we were like trying to find something. And we came across this series called House of David. It's on Amazon Prime. And I want to be here to tell you guys, from a self-proclaimed movie critic, it is amazing. 10 out of 10. And so me and Dad were sitting down watching it, and it's like, wow, they do an amazing job, number one, of staying on topic, staying on the storyline. Some Christian and biblical series struggle to do that. Great storyline. I mean, the writing's amazing. The characters are wrote out professionally. It's an amazing series. And so when Seth came to me about a month ago asking, Hudson, would you like to preach tonight? I was like, well, I know exactly what I'm going to preach on. And so back to the House of David, one of the things I love about it is how it puts you in that first-person role of what David was going through. And so I want us to dive into that tonight in 1 Samuel chapter 16, verses 6 through 13. And so it says, when they came, he looked on Eliab and thought, surely the Lord's anointed is before him. But the Lord said to Samuel, do not look on his appearance or on the height of his stature, because I have rejected him. For the Lord sees not as man sees. Man looks on the outward appearance, but the Lord looks upon the heart. Then Jesse called Abinadab and made him pass before Samuel. He said, neither has the Lord chosen this one. Then Jesse made Shammah pass by, and he said, neither has the Lord chosen this one. And Jesse made 7 of his sons pass before Samuel. And Samuel said to Jesse, the Lord has not chosen these. Then Samuel said to Jesse, are all your sons here? And he said, there remains yet the youngest. But behold, he is keeping the sheep. And Samuel said to Jesse, send and get him, for we will not sit down till he comes here. And he sent and brought him in, and now he was ruddy and had beautiful eyes and was handsome. And the Lord said to him, arise, anoint him, for this is he. Then Samuel took the horn of oil and anointed him in the midst of his brothers. And the Spirit of the Lord rested upon David from that day forward, and Samuel rose up and went to Ramah. Okay, so that's a little bit of a lot. I'm going to give y'all some context as to what's going on right now. So, obviously, Samuel, the prophet, has just anointed David to be king. Okay? So you might be asking, why? Well, did Israel not already have a king? They did. His name was King Saul. In fact, Samuel was really putting his faith in God that God would protect him, because if Saul found out that Samuel had done this, Saul would surely kill him. So, again, Israel already has a king, but God's chosen another. Why? So, a little time before, Saul himself had been anointed by Samuel, God's chosen king, but instead of staying on that route that God had put Saul upon, Saul said, well, no, this world, it looks pretty cool. I've got all these riches now. I think I'm going to go after that. So, ends up, they're fighting this battle. They were very good warriors. They're fighting this battle, and God pretty much says, wipe out this entire civilization, because they have just done horrible, horrible things. And Saul says, all right. And then he goes, he kills most people, but he takes the cows, the goats, the sheep, and he keeps their king. Why would Saul do this when God has specifically told him not to? Well, just like I said, the world had corrupted Saul's mind. So God said, you know what, Saul? No, I'm moving from you. I'm moving to David. Why David? And that's the question I first thought to myself when I was reading through this. Why did God move from the man he had raised up to be king to a 15-year-old shepherd? And I think the answer is pretty clear-cut. In verses 6 through 7, it says, when they came, he looked on Eliab and thought, surely the Lord is anointed is before him. But the Lord said to Samuel, do not look on his appearance or on the height of his stature, because I have rejected him. For the Lord sees not as man sees. Man looks on the outward appearance, but the Lord looks upon the heart. I was like, okay, so God immediately says, I'm not all talk. God says this to Samuel, and then immediately backs it up by choosing the 15-year-old youngest brother who's a shepherd. Again, to give y'all more context is key in the Bible. If you were the youngest brother, especially out of 8, you pretty much were nothing. Some of y'all know what that's like, right? Some of y'all have big families. I don't, and we still treat Lachlan. I mean, Lachlan's in the house. It's rough. But he's also a shepherd. So what was a shepherd back then at this time? Somebody who tended the sheep in the fields. And a shepherd was only a step above a slave in their social hierarchy in those times. And he's also 15 years old, so he's really young. All those three things is like, God, what are you doing? Why are you choosing David to be king over your whole nation, over your whole people, when you already have somebody? And it's quite simple. David valued his relationship with God. When he had nowhere else to go, he ran to God, and look where God took him. So David is in the fields. He's a shepherd. Nobody wants to talk to David. David's the youngest. I mean, nobody really wants to have any connection with him. Nobody wants to know him. But when David had nobody in the form of other people, he knew God, and David ran to God. So in these fields, he's writing out these songs. He becomes a skilled musician. He writes out some of the Psalms we have in the Bible, right? And he writes out many of them. And it's because of that relationship with God that David had that God puts him in this position to be king over Israel. Because, again, God doesn't look upon the outward appearance. He looks upon his heart. And he said, okay, who has the most devoted heart to me? And it's David. Okay, so moving on, he's been anointed by Samuel. About 3-4 years pass, and there's this big battle, right? And if I can get my graphic on the screen for me, that would be great. But there's this big battle. If y'all flip to 1 Samuel chapter 17, I don't have my graphic. Okay. So pretty much there was this big battle, and there were 2 countries, the Israelites and the Philistines. And the Israelites, they were God's chosen people. They followed the law of God. They followed God in general. That's what they were known for. They were very good warriors. The Philistines were, oh, there it is. Okay. So here we have a giant valley, right? And these two nations are fighting each other. So on this side, we have the Philistines. On this side, we have the Israelites. And so the Israelites, they are God's people. They know God, supposedly. And that's why they've been so successful in fighting all these other nations, right? Well, all of a sudden, there's this curveball. And this man named Goliath comes out. Now, we all know the basic story of David and Goliath. And to be honest, I think we need a little refresher on why this is such an important story. So Goliath walks out. He's estimated to be around 9'10". And yes, that's very big. He's called a giant for a reason. And so Israel, who is all confident because they knew God, all of a sudden they're cowering. They're cowering at this giant, this man. And to give y'all some context of how big Goliath was, he had a helmet of bronze on his head. He's armed with a coat of mail, and the weight of his coat was 5,000 shekels of bronze. He had bronze armor on his legs and a javelin of bronze slung between his shoulders. The shaft of his spear was like a weaver's beam, and his spear weighed 600 shekels of iron. Guys, that's really heavy. So I just wanted to tell y'all that because, this is daunting. Could you imagine trying to 1v1 this guy? He comes out and he's like, Israel, I'm going to fight one person. Whoever wins gets to be slaves of the other person's army. Okay? So all of Israel is like, no, I'm not doing that. I'm not fighting this guy one-on-one. And then comes David. And this is the contrast between David and Israel. See, Israel claimed to know God. They knew of God, but they didn't know God. They didn't know God personally. So when they're faced with this obstacle that is Goliath, they didn't know what to do. And they cowered in fear. And for 40 days, Goliath came into this valley. He came down from this mountain, came into the valley, and he taunted Israel for 40 days. That is a month and about a week and a half. That's a long time. And Israel couldn't do anything about it because they were too scared. So the contrast is David. Guys, David's probably 18 at this point. He's about our senior ages, right? So David comes to give supplies to his older brothers who are fighting, and he sees Goliath taunting Israel, and most importantly, God. And in verse 36 through 37, David's response is to say, the Lord has delivered me from the paw of the lion and from the paw of the bear. He will deliver me from the hands of the Philistines. And Saul said to David, go, and the Lord be with you. Right? So David, this 18-year-old, comes onto this massive battlefield. There's hundreds of thousands of men, and says, no, I'm going to fight this giant. If I'm a soldier there, I'm like, what? You're going to fight the giant. And David's basis, his foundation is God. So he has no reason to be scared of this giant because his foundation is God. See, David didn't know God. David didn't know of God. He knew God. And because of that, David wasn't scared of man. He feared God. So in verses 17 through 45 through 17, David says, you come to me with a sword and a spear, with a javelin, and I come to you in the name of the Lord of the hosts, the God of the armies of Israel, whom you have defied. This day the Lord will deliver you into my hand, and I will strike you down and cut off your head. And I will give the dead bodies of the host of the Philistines this day to the birds and to the air and the wild beasts of the earth, that all the earth may know that there is a God in Israel, and that all this assembly may know that the Lord saves not with the sword and spear, for the battle is the Lord, and he will give you into his hand. So the first thing I noticed when I was reading this verse is David first turns his attention to Goliath. He says, Goliath, you're not fighting me. You're fighting God. You've not been taunting a nation this entire time. You've not been taunting a singular person. You've been taunting your creator, God. And so Jesus said, have the faith the size of a mustard seed. I don't even know what this is. I mean, you got a 18-year-old talking crazy to a 9'10" giant. That's incredible faith to me. But why? It's because he fears God, not man. And in verse 47, another thing that caught my eye was, all this assembly may know that the Lord saves not with the sword and the spear, for the battle is the Lord's, he will give into your hand. So he turns from Goliath, he turns to Israel. He says, why are you scared? Why do you cower? You are God's chosen people. you have no reason to be scared. Why have you had to wait 40 days for me to come here, an 18-year-old, and fight this giant? So that's kind of like his mission statement to Israel. Know God, don't know of him. And we all know how kind of the story goes. I mean, David eventually kills Goliath with a single stone, as of course not David's power, is God's. And so after this, David becomes very relevant in Israel. I mean, you kill a 9'10" giant, I'm pretty sure that's bound to happen. So along his power gain, he starts gaining power, and Saul doesn't like that. So Saul tries to kill him. And through about 10, 15 years, David runs from Saul, and he has 3 opportunities to kill Saul. All 3 times he says, no, this is God's anointed king, I'm not going to kill him. Again, showing that relationship he had with God to say, no, I'm not going to strive for my self-interest, but go after God's. But even after all this, when David is at the height of his power, and he's a situated king in Israel, in 2 Samuel chapter 11, verses 1 through 4, we come across what is known as David's fall. And I'm going to flip there real quick. It says, in the spring of the year, this time when kings go out to battle, David sent Joab and his servants with him and all Israel, and they ravaged the Ammonites and besieged Rabbah. But David remained at Jerusalem. It happened late one afternoon when David arose from his couch and was walking on the roof of the king's house, that he saw from the roof a woman bathing, and the woman was very beautiful. And David sent and inquired about the woman, and one said, is not this Bathsheba, the daughter of Eliam, the wife of Uriah the Hittite? So David sent messengers, took her, and she came to him, and he lay with her. Now she had been purifying herself from her uncleanliness. Then she returned to her house. The woman conceived, she sent and told David, I am pregnant. So David's on the mountain, right? He's got this great relationship with God. He's winning all these battles. He's really bringing Israel into what is known as their golden age. And then boom, it all crumbles. Why? Why did it all crumble like that? Well, it's because of his disobedience. David turns his attention from his relationship with God to himself. He's being selfish. He's being a selfish king, which is never good. And his disobedience puts him in a bad position, right? And for those of you that know me, know I love football. The worst thing to do when you're playing football is to be out of position. And Satan catches David out of position. And what happens? Satan takes the snap, sees an opening, throws a bomb, touchdown, we have Bathsheba, right? It's really bad because David is out of position. Don't put yourself out of position. If you stick with God, you'll be in position, right? Sin happens when you're in the wrong place. Guys, how many times have we sinned because we're in the wrong place? We have that self-control to say, no, we don't need to be here. We need to be in the place where God wants me to be. It's that direct result of not being where God wants you to be, right? So ends up, Nathan the prophet goes to David's palace and pretty much calls David out for his sin. He gives him this whole illustration about how like a rich man had all these lambs, and a poor man had this one lamb that his family adored. And the rich man had a traveler come by. He said, well, instead of killing this one lamb, I'm going to kill the poor man's lamb. And David's response is, quote, as the Lord lives, the man who has done this deserves to die. Well, ironic, this is talking about David himself. David took Uriah, her husband's most valued possession, and ended up killing Uriah for it. He took it away from Uriah and sends Uriah out to the battlefield to die. And in verses 7 through 9 in chapter 12, it says, Nathan said to David, you are the man. Thus says the Lord, the God of Israel, I anointed you king over Israel, and I delivered you out of the hand of Saul, and I gave you your master's house and your master's wives into your arms, and gave you the house of Israel and of Judah. And if this were too little, I would add to you as much more. God says to David, David, why have you sinned against me? I've given you everything. Why? Because you've emphasized, you've put effort into this relationship with me, and all of a sudden, you're going to turn. I'm sure God felt stabbed in the heart because of that. And so, what is David's reaction, right? Either David could have said, well, I'm a king. I can do whatever I want. I don't need you, God. He'd pretty much do the same exact thing that Saul did, and we probably go down the same road. But no, David has a heart of repentance because we all fail in life. There's so many times where I've had to go and say to God, Lord, I'm sorry, I've messed up. Lord, make me new. Renew my relationship with you, right? And that's what David does here. In fact, we already mentioned David's Psalms. In Psalm 51, David writes out what is known as his repentance psalm. Out of 150 psalms, Psalm 51 is considered the saddest, the most melancholy psalm in the entire Bible. And just a little excerpt of it is, have mercy on me, O God, according to your steadfast love, according to your abundant mercy, blot out my transgressions. Wash me thoroughly and from my iniquity, and cleanse me from my sin. For I know my transgressions, and my sin is ever before me. Against you and you only have I sinned, and done what is evil in your sight, so that you may be justified in your words, and blameless in your judgment. Behold, I was brought forth in iniquity, and in sin my mother did conceive me. Behold, you delight in truth, and in the inward being you teach me wisdom in the secret heart. So David is pretty much crying out to God, saying, Lord, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for my sin. I'm sorry that I've done this. And God's response, you see later in chapter 12, is, yes, David, there are going to have to be consequences. And what those consequences that the baby Bathsheba is going to have, God said, I'm going to have to take that away from you. It's going to have to die. And David fasts and he mourns, but it does end up happening. Another thing that God said would happen is strife in David's family. And you also see this down the road about 10 years later when Absalom, his own son, rebelled against him and caused a civil war in Israel. David eventually quells the civil war, but it still happened because of the mistake that David made all those years before. So sin always comes with a loss. There's not a time in our lives when we think, oh, yeah, I did this, and it's probably wrong, but God's going to let me get away with it. No, there's always a consequence. There's always a punishment for that sin being in your life. So as we end tonight, I want to ask you, how will you react? How is God calling you to a closer relationship with him? You see, because David, in that moment of weakness, he turned to God. He said, Lord, I'm sorry. He repented. How often can we say that we do that? Believers, how many of us are like Israel? How many of us know of God, but how well do we know him personally? You see, when you say, Lord, I believe in you, I trust that you've died on the cross for me, that you died last Friday and you rose again Sunday, only for us to say, well, I think reading my Bible on Sunday is enough. I think, coming to church on Wednesday is cool, but I'm not going to set a good example at school. We know of God, but we aren't putting in the effort to know him. Because God has died for you, he wants that relationship with you. He wants to have that personal relationship for you. He didn't die so you could say, Lord, I'm going to come to church one Sunday. Lord, I'm going to not set the example at school for other people when you're a believer. Christ died last week so you may know him. And I advise you to start putting some effort into that relationship because it's the most important thing you'll ever do. And unbelievers, I want to nerd. Yeah, okay, I'm back. Unbelievers, I want to nerd out on you for a second. So, like I said, me and my dad love movies. One of the movies we watched was Iron Man. And Iron Man, so yeah, some of y'all are laughing. Yeah, Iron Man, so part of his story, right, is he's got this massive hole in his chest. And there's this special material that's keeping him alive, but it's not doing any good. So what does he do? He finds another solution. He finds another material, right? And when he's researching this material, there's this one scene, and I remember watching it. I was like, wow, they did this amazing. The music's perfect. Everything's great. When he finds this material, he taps on it. And while he's looking for this one little thing, this one thing to heal his heart almost, he taps on it, and wow, it explodes into all these infinite things, these infinite possibilities. So if you're an unbeliever tonight, you've heard me talk about this relationship with God that David had, how it brought him up from nothing to be a king, and how even when he failed, God brought him back. I want you to ask yourself, is it time for me to take that step? God wants you to see, he wants you to take that step. He died Friday, and he rose Sunday for you to know him personally. So I encourage you and I beg of you to, as we leave this place, not to just go out. I would encourage you to ask questions. If you don't know Christ, I encourage you to ask questions. If that's on your heart, I pray that you would talk to somebody after the service, that you would let somebody know, that you would ask these questions. I pray that you would pursue God, that you would take that step. Because I promise you, and I've experienced this in my own life, if you take that step, God will meet you where you are. You can come to him broken. He doesn't care. If you want to know him, God will meet you. And thank you so much for letting me speak tonight, Seth. I pray that God has spoke a good word through me. And as I leave, I pray that every single one of us would take that step to know God. Hope y'all have a good week.